Welcome to episode number 25 of my podcast, Beyond the Game. If you don't know who I am, hi, my name is Eric Michael. I've sold over $5 million in sports cards, and I do these podcasts to give you as much value as possible, talk about things like life and business and sports cards and just anything that's going on in the world. And in this specific podcast, I have some amazing things to talk about. And the first most amazing thing, this is one of the best things that's ever happened to me in my sporting life. If you don't know, I'm from northern New Jersey, a town called Wayne. I like the Jets, I like the Knicks, I like the Rangers, and I like the Mets. Diehard fan of all those teams. I was born in 1997. So if you do the math, I have never seen one of my teams win a championship, and most of my teams, quite frankly, are usually not good, except the New York Rangers are pretty consistently good. And what happened last night with the New York Mets with Pete Alonso hitting that 3-run home run in the ninth inning, wow. That was some of the most, I also had money on it, which also helps, but that was some of the most rewarding stuff I have seen. That's up there, man. That's up there with Mark Sanchez in 2010 and 2011 going to the AFC Championship, 2011 when they went into New England and beat the New England Patriots. That was also very rewarding. But I have some stuff like a failed card purchase, New York Mets. I was going to buy this card of Shohei Ohtani for a lot of money, and I was this close, but I didn't. And a student that made $8,000 the first month flipping sports cards. I'm going to explain to you how he did that. And when I say $8,000, I mean $8,000 in profit. Not revenue, not gross income, whatever. Profit. $8,000 extra in his bank account. All right. And I almost forgot, so I actually went back and edited this section back in, my top picks, and I am scorching hot right now. I've hit 9 bets in a row in the NFL last week. The Giants, the Jaguars hit. The Chargers, which was my favorite bet of the week, pushed somehow. I don't know. That was stupid. Then the Ravens and the Lions. Then I hit the Falcons yesterday. And then I hit the Royals with Seth Lugo in Game 2 against the Orioles. That was a great pick. Mets Game 1 and Mets in the series. I've hit about 9 in a row. I might be missing 1 or 2. But here are my top 3 NFL picks of the week. I got off to a bad start. Okay. The first week, we went down 12 units. And then week 2, up 4. Week 3, 0. Then last week, we went up 18 units. So for the whole entire year, we are up 8 plus 18. Seems like we are up 10 units. Okay. Plus the Falcons last night. So we're up 13 units on the whole entire year. And I'm not going to say how much a unit is because I bet too much money. But a unit can be whatever you think it is. Now, my top 3 picks. Number 1. There is some bias in this because I'm a Jets fan, but I actually do think it's a very valid pick. Jets plus 2.5. They're playing in London against the Vikings. The Jets have a very good defense to stop the Vikings because the Jets have a very good pass defense and pass rush. And the Vikings don't actually with Aaron Jones, they've been running the ball okay, but the Jets have a defense that's built to stop the Vikings. And what goes up must come down. I think Sam Darnold's legit, but he's a little bit too hot. I think Rodgers will get it together. Plus 2.5 is a fishy line. It feels like Vegas is just baiting everyone in to take the Vikings. And I think the Jets are going to beat the Vikings and outplay them. That's pick number 1. Pick number 2, my favorite pick of the week. And this is going to get made fun of, as a lot of my picks do. But as you can see, I'm up on the year. The Jaguars minus 2.5 or minus 3 home to the Colts. I bet on the Jaguars last week, so I watched the whole game. They played well. Trevor Lawrence is 10x the quarterback Joe Flacco is. I believe it's Flacco playing. And I think the Jaguars are due for a home win. I think the Colts defense is kind of shitty. Offense is okay. I think it's a bad spot for the Colts. I think the Jaguars win handsomely. And the last pick of the whole entire week, I don't know how I feel about this, but I like it. The Steelers minus 2.5 home to the Cowboys. Cowboys, they're missing some linemen. They don't look right. Their defense is weak. Not saying the Steelers' offense is great, but I think they're going to run the ball. If you give Justin Fields time, he's going to run around. He's a beast when he runs. And I just think the Steelers' defense is going to stifle them. So there's only one weapon. CeeDee Lamb's amazing, but outside of that, their running game kind of sucks. No real other receivers. Those are my 3 picks. The Jets, Jaguars are my favorite, and then the Steelers And I liked the Falcons last night. I took them, but I do these podcasts on Fridays now, so couldn't say that. But enjoy the picks. Have a bunch of things to talk about, and let's go through some of them. So first, I was having a discussion with a friend. His name is Michael. Michael is in the same world of that I am in terms of making money online, right? I own a coaching program. I teach people how to make a side income buying and selling sports cards and sports autographs. And Michael teaches gym owners how to scale their gym essentially. And I was having this conversation with him. So, as a business owner, and then someone that wants to make money themselves, there's two problems a lot of entrepreneurs have. I'm talking whether you're someone that buys and sells sports cards, wanting to make a few $1,000s a month, or someone that wants to make a few $1,000,000 a month. Every entrepreneur has two common problems. One, actually, it's really one problem. They have shiny object syndrome. Okay, so they get distracted by this and by that. And the reality of business is, as corny as it sounds, everything works. You just have to force it to work. That's how business goes. People usually aren't disciplined to stay focused long enough on one task. And because they can't do that, they jump from this opportunity to that opportunity, to drop shipping, to Amazon, to sports cards. And they all work. Some are easier than others. Like I could tell you, I've done them all. Sports cards is easier to make money than making money on Amazon. It just is. There's less moving parts, but you have to stay focused and force it to work. And, you could speed up that time by joining coaching programs like myself or paying mentors. However, something that's you want to do, right, as a human, you only have so much time and so much money and so much resources. If you ever hear Alex Hormozi talk, Alex Hormozi is someone who I follow religiously on YouTube. He's like the only guy. Him and Colin Coward are the two people I follow for whatever reason, but Alex Hormozi is very informational when it comes to business stuff. And you have a finite amount of resources. When I say resources, I mean time, I mean money. So you want to put it in the best possible situation. Michael, my friend who helps gym owners, he makes good money with his business. The only problem is he's not putting the wind at his back. All right, and I'm telling you this because it's a great business lesson in anything. So let me give you an example of a bad industry to get in. Let's say you get into the industry of helping newspapers market. Well, that's not a good idea because newspapers are a dying industry. You're not putting the wind at your back. You're not putting the momentum at your back, right? For example, like sports cards analogy here, when I buy a sports card like a baseball card right now, while I'm speaking in October, November, if I'm buying it to get it graded, I think there's a high chance of it going up in value and there's a decent chance of it appreciating because I'm buying it at its absolute low point. So I'm putting the wind in my back. Another bad example of a business would be, let's say you're someone that, this is an example from, I think I got this from Alex Hormozi. He had a friend that was really, really good at writing resumes. Really good. And he would help people get jobs and charge them a lot of money to perfect their resume. It's a good business, right? You would think, that sounds good. There's only one problem. People who need a resume don't have a job and they're broke, right? You don't want to put yourself in a market if people don't have money to pay you, right? That's why you get into business, to make money, and you want to make it as easy as possible, right? If you're going to choose a vehicle, you want to make it as easy as possible. And Michael helps gym owners. The problem with gym owners is they're broke. Gyms are very, very difficult businesses to run. They have very tiny margins, and Michael has great skills when it comes to business. He could have a business in anything. And, hold on. And, for example, me, the reason why Major League Profits works so well is because the people we market to, probably a lot of you guys who are watching this right now, people with 9-to-5 jobs. Usually you guys have money, you save money, and we teach people how to make a few $1,000s a month. So we're targeting people that have money, because most people do, who have a 9-to-5 job, and it's simple and realistic to make a few $1,000s a month. Teaching gym owners, gyms are very difficult businesses to run, and they don't have money to pay you to begin with. So you're just not putting the wind at your back, right? If you're going to put, right, once again, this goes back to what I was saying before. You have a finite amount of resources to allocate. Put it in the best possible position. Like, obviously, I'm an advocate of making money with sports cards, of course. And sports cards is a great place to put your money and time into because sports, as you probably know, right? I know, obviously, I sell a program, so I'm biased, of course, but we all know sports is only growing, right? It's going overseas. It just gets bigger every year, especially the NFL, and sports cards just keeps growing. And it's simple to make money, right? That is a good vehicle to put your time and money into because it's easier to make money and it's just growing, right? If you're going to pick something, you want to pick something that's growing. Something that's growing, it's easier to make money. Like an extreme example of this was in the pandemic. For those of you guys who are newer to sports cards, you may not remember, but in the pandemic in 2021 and 2022, sports cards were going fucking crazy. Just anything you bought would just go up in value. It was insane. Like, to give you an example, this is just side note here. This is the craziest thing I've ever seen. Trae Young during the pandemic was like the guy. He was like the guy. He got so hot at one point. This is not a made-up story, what I'm about to say. It was, I believe it was like November of 21, I think. November of 2021. I went to the Dallas Card Show. This is why the Dallas Card Show got so big, because they were the only one doing card shows during the pandemic because Texas really didn't care. And that's kind of like the birth of the Dallas Card Show. But anyways, I walked into that show on Friday. A Trae Young Silver Prism PSA 10, that card's probably worth like $200 now, was about $1,500 to $1,600, roughly around there, on Friday. By Sunday, when I walked out of the show, I swear to God, the same exact card is worth $3,300. This is crazy, I know. But the reason I'm telling you this is an extreme example of what I'm trying to say. Sports cards were growing insanely, and anything you did, you just really made money. I had students who were, honestly, there's some students that buy my program and don't listen to me for whatever reason, and they would grade 9s and 8s, and they were doubling their money just because they had the wind at their back and they were in an industry that was growing. So it's just easier to make money when you're putting yourself in the right vehicle, right? It's easier to go on a sailboat if the wind is at your back, right? As opposed to if the wind is against you. So just something that I think is interesting, right? Everyone's goal, I'm sure if you're watching this, 99% of people's goals is to make money with less time, achieve time freedom, achieve financial freedom, right? These are goals that most people have. And now you have to ask yourself, where can I put my money and time in the best possible situation? Because you can't do 5 things at once, especially you guys who have like families and mortgage and kids. Take my word for it. I have one business. That's all I could do. It's a lot of work. And you guys, and I have no responsibilities in my life, to be honest with you. I have a puppy, and that's it. I have no girlfriend. I have, obviously, I have family, but like I'm 27, so I don't live with them. And I'm not married. I just live life literally with no responsibilities. And I can't even run more than one business because it's so much work. So you have to pick one, what you're passionate about, and 2, something that's in the right, or should I say, something with the wind at your back. Good piece of business advice that I think most people miss, because don't sell a resume service business because people with resumes don't have money, right? It's when you think about it, common sense, like, oh, okay, that makes sense. Anyways, so there was a card I was looking to buy. I think this is interesting. So you guys could probably see this card on eBay, and you're going to see this. So I have a YouTube training coming out next week of me just literally on eBay, just scrolling for 30 minutes and buying a bunch of cards and making offers and such. There was one card I was so pissed off. I was not able to buy. I was I bet good money on this card. I was certain this card I was going to win. Hold on a second. Let me take my sip. So it was a 2017 Mega Box Purple Ohtani. Now, you probably are saying to yourself, why would you grade a card from 2017? That is old. Yes, you're right. It's not a good idea, but I like to take big risks. However, this card was graded a Beckett 9. Okay, the centering was an 8.5. The edges were a 9. And the corners and surface was a 9.5 each. When I see that, I'm like, ooh, this is money. Now, instead of looking at the subgrades of the card, I look at the actual card. And I'm like, wow, this centering is pretty good. Like this, I don't think this is an 8.5 centering, especially PSA cares more about corners, less about centering, as opposed to Beckett cares more about centering. That's just how it goes. But I looked at the actual card and I was like, oh, this looks like a good one. And a raw cards were doing about 2,400. PSA 10s were around 6,000. So I bid like $2,400 or $2,500, certain that I would win because a Beckett 9 usually sells for less than raw. And I really thought this had a high chance of grading a PSA 10. And I did something similar back in, I forget if it was like January or February. Very similar Ohtani card. It was Atomic Bowman Chrome. It was an auto. It actually had literally the same exact subgrades: 8.5 centering, 9 edges, 9.5 corners and surface. And I looked at the card and I was like, the edges and centering look better than what it says here. And I bought it for $9,750 and got it graded. I actually didn't think it would grade. There was like an edge issue, but I thought, okay, it's worth it to send in. PSA charged me about $1,500 to get it graded. At 10, I sold it for 30 grand. So similar Ohtani card, same subgrades. And I was actually certain this card would get a PSA 10. And I didn't win. I couldn't believe how much it sold for. It sold for $3,300. And Ohtani, to me, is still a good buy. He's like a blue chip stock. I don't like to buy baseball guys when they're hot in the playoffs, but whether Ohtani wins or he loses, I mean, the guy's going to probably go down as the greatest baseball player of all time because he is. Like Shohei Ohtani, if he stays healthy, is the greatest baseball player of all time, especially when he goes back to pitching. It's not even a question. Like, I don't even want to hear anybody ever comment anything on that topic. That should be 100% agreeable on everyone. People not negotiate, but like go back and forth between LeBron and Jordan, right? LeBron's probably a better overall basketball player. Jordan's more of a winner. Who's the best quarterback? Mahomes is creeping up on Tom Brady. Hockey players, Wayne Gretzky. Baseball, it's literally not even a question. Ohtani is fast, throws 98 miles per hour, a sub-3 ERA when he pitches, and he's healthy. Over 300 hitter, hit 50 bombs this year. It's literally not even debatable. Like, there's no one ever been even close. There's no one who can even sniff his jockstrap, okay? Ohtani is the greatest baseball player of all time. But yeah, so I was kind of pissed about that. I really thought I was going to be able to win this card. I love to take swings like that, but it didn't happen. Those cards, they're like these weird cards. And I remember when they first came out, Ohtani, and it was like, up and coming in like 2018, 2019. I was like, these mega box Bowman Chrome cards, they're like, ugly. They really sell for a lot of money, and I couldn't believe that purple card. I gotta look it up, and now I'm gonna look it up. Let me look this up. I'm actually interested now to see this. So I used to buy and sell a lot of these mega box Bowman Chrome Ohtani cards to get them graded all the time. I used to do it all the time, and I forgot what I would buy and sell them for, but like they were way cheaper. I can't believe how much Ohtani stuff has increased, and Aaron Judge. It's freaking crazy. Wow. So back in 2018, I was buying these cards for like $100, getting them graded and reselling them for like $250 to $300. A PSA 10, mega box purple Ohtani. Then the pandemic happened. Also, Ohtani's a GOAT now, and that same card today is like the last one sold for $6,900 or $5,600, I should say. One sold for $5,600 and $6,900. The one I wanted to buy, you could see it on eBay, sold for $3,200. I couldn't believe it sold. I'm looking at it right now. It just pisses me off. But anyways, yeah, that was the card I was looking to buy. And there was a bunch of cards I was looking to buy, but I lost a bunch of auctions this week. I don't know what's going on. But yeah, that's just me venting to you guys when I lose a card I really want. But I'm sure there will be another one in a few weeks that I'll be venting about. On to some other stuff. So, New York Mets. Can you believe that? Wow. Pete Alonso with a 3-run homer in the top of the ninth off Devin Williams, who's the best closer in baseball. And then Starling Marte had a clutch single to give them an insurance run. And I was praying. I had money on the Mets too. But I was praying they would win. Oh, man. I really thought I had no hope. And I'm an optimistic person, but I really had no hope. I was like, this just does not look good. The Brewers are just clutch, right? They hit 2 home runs back-to-back in the 8th inning. 7th inning. Or 8th inning. No, that was the 7th inning. They hit back-to-back homers. And then the day before, the Mets blew it as well. But can you, my father and I have went back and forth on this our whole lives. And maybe someone who knows more about baseball can explain this to me. Jose Quintana, who was the Mets pitcher, throwing a great game, didn't let up a run through 6 innings. He had like 75, 80 pitches. The Mets bullpen is okay. It's not great. It's not horrible. They have some decent guys. Why are you taking him out? Why are you taking out Jose Quintana when he's pitching the game of his life in the biggest game possible? You don't have a stellar bullpen. The Brewers couldn't hit him. Am I going crazy? And as soon as they take him out, they bring in a guy who's okay. I forget his name. Boto, whatever. He's okay. He's been decent. But why let him keep going? If he gets into trouble, okay, bring in someone new to freshen it up and maybe get a few strikeouts. But why are you taking people out? And the Brewers manager did this as well. Whatever his name is. His last name's Murphy. That kid was pitching Tobias something. The Mets literally couldn't touch. They could not fucking touch him. Why are you taking these guys out that are in the zone to bring in someone where they've been sitting on the bench for hours and they could, you know how it is with bullpen guys? They can come in, be great, not be great. They're streaky because they're coming in cold, just like Devin Williams yesterday. Even the best closers in the league could shit the bed. And it's like a recurring theme in baseball. I get it in the regular season. Sure, conserve. Conserve the starting pitching. Guys get hurt. I still think it's stupid because guys get hurt more today than they did back then. And back then, they were going over 100 pitches like every single start. Like, who was it? Cy Young. How many games did he threw some ridiculous amount of games. I forget what it was, but he was throwing like 130, 140 pitches, pitching like every third or fourth day. And Jose Quintana has 75, 80 pitches, whatever it was, and they take him out. I was about to fucking lose it. And then I really lost it when the Mets let up 2 home runs back-to-back when they brought in Lupe or whatever the hell his name is. But yeah, maybe someone could explain that to me because I for sure have no idea why people do that, why managers do that. And it could have cost the Mets the season. Thank God it didn't. But so I was going back and forth with my dad. And hopefully he doesn't really watch this stuff, so I'm going to say this. So I'm very financially fortunate from sports cards and from Major League profits. And back in May, was it May or June, when the Rangers were playing the Hurricanes in the playoffs in the second round, I took my dad to a Rangers game for Father's Day. And he asked me how much the tickets were, and I bought 3 of them for me, my brother, and him. They were about $1,000 each. And he's like, that's a waste of money. Sure. Some might think that's a waste of money. But I want to challenge my dad and you guys who are watching this with this. So my business partner and I, John, who you don't see, he's just behind the scenes, we've spent our whole 20s building this company, Major League Profits, and flipping sports cards at the same time to put ourselves in to be quite frank with you, a financial position I didn't even think was possible. I just don't come from money like that. Like my parents are very frugal. I lived in a middle-class town. I grew up like not poor, but poorer than the people around me because my parents try to go to a town above their means. So there can be a better education system, even though I thought the education in my town sucked. But so, point I'm trying to make. So I spent my whole 20s building this company, right? My business partner, John, and I, don't get me wrong, we've lived life, but so many weekends so many Saturdays, spending all day on the computer, so many events we've had to cancel, parties we couldn't make, etc., right? And it's not a sacrifice. It's something I wanted to do. Like, if I have something to do for my business, I would rather not get drunk and go to a party. I'd rather focus and be productive. It's just how my mind works. But anyways, right? Spend my whole 20s building this company. Now I'm in this position where I could do things like, and I'm not saying this to be cocky, I'm saying this to make a point, okay? So don't take this the wrong way. I'm in a position where I get to drop $3,000 on Ranger tickets and not think twice about it. And my dad said to me, this is a waste of money, you're an idiot. And I said to him, actually, I couldn't think of a better use of my money. Isn't that exactly why you get into business, to make more money? You could buy nice cars and boats and nice apartments and sure, whatever. But it's for the experiences and helping the others around you. I have 2 rules, or I look at money in 2 ways. There are 2 best uses of money. Not to save. Money is not good to save. Money is a tool to make more money. What do I mean by that? Taking money, investing into yourself, skills, coaching programs, mentorships. If you're not into starting a business, right, putting it in investments. Money is a tool just to make more money. If you have a lot of money sitting in your bank account, you're doing it wrong, okay? because money is something you use to make more of. And number two, then you use that money when you have excess amounts of it for experiences, right? Like going on vacations and going to Ranger games where the tickets are absurdly expensive. And that's my opinion. And I truly try to use my money to help the others around me and bring them into my circle and help them live the fortunate life that I'm able to live now. That's truly the way I look at money. Then also I use money to constantly invest in myself. We just bought our first piece of real estate, so I'm using money as a tool to make more money, right? I don't want money sitting in my bank account. The more money in my bank account, the more anxiety I get. If you get anxiety as you see more money in your bank account, you're doing it right, okay? And it's funny because I don't even think of this concept back when I first started buying and selling sports cards. When I first started buying and selling sports cards back in 2015, I saved up $4,000. And I bought my first card. It was $500. It was of Steven Matz, Bowman Chrome Orange Refractor, 2011. That was his rookie year. Bought it, got it graded, sold for $888. And then I quickly realized, whoa, I could click buttons on the computer, make money, and get these cards graded. And I started to buy a few more cards, make more money. And that's when I realized, wow, actually having money in my bank account is bad. Why would I want money here if I could have money in cards making me money? And I realized that at a very young age, that money is a tool to make more money. I was very fortunate to get into sports cards. It taught me a lot about just life and business and dealing with people and all sorts of stuff like that. And the point I'm trying to make is money is a tool to make more money. And there's no better use of your money than helping the others around you and living through experiences. Sure, I could be selfish. And if you make a lot of money, you could be selfish by buying a nice car but who gives a shit about that? I could tell you for a fact, buying a nice car and a boat, and take my word for it, because I have this stuff, does not fulfill you. It's nice. It's fun. Sure. I have a nice car. I truly enjoy driving it. But it's not because. It's much more fulfilling taking your dad to a Ranger game and getting hammered and putting money on the Rangers and eating pizza in New York City and doing that. I could tell you for a fact, because if you live life and just want to use your money to buy mere materialistic things, it never, ever, 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 ever is enough, right? You buy a BMW, then you want a Maserati, and then you want a McLaren, and then you want a Rolls Royce, and you buy this boat for 10 grand, and then you want one for 20. It's never enough. It's addictive. But living through experiences and spending your money on experiences, that is enough. It doesn't matter how much the experience is. Tonight we're going to a concert of Morgan Wallen, me and a few friends. It wasn't terribly expensive. It wasn't cheap, actually, but it wasn't terribly expensive. And I'm not need to spend more on my next experience, because it's the people who are around you that's important. So, and I'm telling you this because I just bought Mets tickets for me, my dad, and my two buddies. And they were not cheap. And I'm actually my dad's probably going to ask me how much they were, and I'm not going to tell him the truth, to be honest with you. So I don't need to hear about it, because they were quite expensive for a baseball game. And I think it's because people in New York are excited that the Mets finally did something. But I think it's interesting. I think that's the best way to use your money, at least in my opinion. Now, piggybacking off of this, I'm just going to say his name. So we have a student. His name is Michael Haig. He lives in New Jersey. And he joined our highest level program. And I remember speaking with him. I was like, you could tell when you speak with someone if they have money and they're successful. Because he was talking to me in terms of I've made good money. I understand that money is a tool to make more money. All the things I kind of just said, Michael says very similar things. And he owns some sort of air conditioning business. And he got into the program, our program. We teach two things in our highest level program, something called sports betting arbitrage, where we show you how to take this advantage of discrepancies in sports books and make risk-free money. Then also sports cards. So it's kind of like both. Sports cards is most of it. The sports betting arbitrage, it's 5 to 10% of it, but it's just a nice quirky way to make an extra few $1,000s a month, doing it for 20 minutes a day. And the first 28 days, this is not me just saying this to say it. I promise you, this is 100% factual and true. And there's a video on it. This video will probably be on YouTube in the next week or two. You could talk to him. He made $8,000 in profit The first 28 days. And like I just know, like when I spoke with him for the first time, I'm like, this guy's gonna crush it in the program. He has the right mindset. And people get so bent over about, fuck mindset. It doesn't mean anything. It does. I'm telling you, it does. Like we had a student one time. His name was, I'm not gonna say his name, but he joined our program, like our highest level program, paid for it, joined next day. We actually kicked him out of the program because he had such a shitty mindset. We kicked him out and gave him a refund because he was like screaming at our coaches saying, I don't know if this is possible. This is going to like require work, blah, blah, blah. And, quite frankly, I don't want you in the program if you're not going to be successful and make me money. Like, I don't care that you paid me money. The goal is long-term. And I know the more successful students we get, more money we make in the long term, right? Because a lot of you guys watching this are probably on the fence of joining our program or booking a call with us, but you keep seeing how many testimonials we have, and it's hard to deny that we're actually good at helping people make money. And this guy, Michael, because he has such a great mindset, boom, $8,000 profit first month. That guy who had a shitty mindset never made a penny. I remember he was in debt, and he's still in debt because he didn't have the right mindset. He could have been Michael and made $8,000 the first month. So, yeah, mindset is quite important. Some other things. So, on to some sports card, more related stuff. So, I was having a conversation with a student, and then actually with two students, and they were talking about repacking. So if you don't know what repacking is, this is what repacking is. Let me explain. All right. That's not a good card. All right. This is a good card to use as an example. This is what repacking is, okay? This card is like $300, this card of LaMelo Ball. What repackers do is they buy a bunch of cards. They try to get good deals on them for 85, 90%. And they take these cards already graded. They can be graded. They can be raw. Usually they're graded already. And they put them in their own product. So they'll design their own box, and it's got its own colors on it. And you could call your business whatever you want. Eric Michael's repacking product, Eric Michael's sports cards, whatever you want. And, I buy this card. Let's say I buy 10 of these cards for $300 each. And because I'm selling these cards now in the form of packs, people don't know what they're getting. People just kind of want to open up the packs for fun, and you're able to charge more money, $320, $330, $340. Now, that's how repacking works. And I have a friend or not a friend, but a student who wants to start a repacking business. This specific student is making about $5,000 a month in cards. How he does it, he buys raw cards, gets them graded, sells them. And he figures, wow, I could actually move my cards faster and for more money if I go through this repacking business. And I explained this to him. Listen, if you want to put in the work and start that, great idea. I could help you with content. If you need to run ads, designing stuff, I'm very good with that stuff. However, I said to him, now you're getting in the world of real business, okay? Like sports cards, to be quite frank with you, it's not real business. It's like a side income. It's a business, but it's like a nice, quirky way to make $3, $4, $5 a month. Like that's really what sports cards is. That's why you see me say it all the time in my ads. You can make more. I know people have made millions, but that's what sports cards is. A repacking product. Now you're building a brand. Now you have customers. Now you have clients. Now you have an email list. Now you are dealing with expenses and money, and it's a full-on business. You are building a brand now. And take my word for it. Building a brand, it's a long-term game, not a short-term game. So I explained to him, listen, all these repackers, they're fucking overpriced, man. They're crushing and making a ton of money, but people are getting nothing out of it because you could charge whatever you want. People don't know what's in the case, right? And people are inherently greedy, a lot of people. So I said to him, listen, if I were you, man, you're buying these cards already. You're into them for half of what they are because you're buying them wrong, getting them graded. You're already making $5,000 a month profit from cards. Be the fairest person in the industry. This card of LaMelo Ball, if you buy this card for $100 and get it graded and now it's worth $300, price your cases or your repack products for exactly what the value of the case is or what the pack is. So some packs of cards will have more or less, but if you sell 10 packs of cards with your different cards in them, right? And the total value of all the cards and all the 10 packs is $10,000, and you're into it, you're into all the cards for $5,000, don't be that dick that charges $13,000, $14,000. Charge 10, maybe upcharge a little bit for the expenses and building the brand. Charge 11, charge 11 and a half total. Like, so that's what you're getting at the end of the day. Why? Because people don't understand how business works, right? Business is very simple at the end of the day. Someone pays you money and you deliver them more value than they paid you. That's business. That's all it is. And if all these other repack products are crushing their customers because they're so overpriced, be that guy that's fair, because you've developed this skill where you know how to flip sports cards and make money. So you could, sure, you're going to make less money up front. That is a fact. You're going to make less money up front. You're going to sell packs of cards for $500 that you probably could have sold for $700. Okay. But in the long term, right, when you have customers coming back to you and they keep getting hits, way more hits than from these other repackers, because other repackers are overpriced, they're going to tell their friends, right? How does business work, right? Oh, where'd you get this repack product? You got all these cards from, oh, I got it from Eric Michael's repack. That is the best way to make money. Take my word for it. And sure, you make less money up front, but over the long term, you're going to have way more customers, way more frequent buys, and word of mouth is a very strong thing. Word of mouth is the strongest form of marketing, okay? Because one person joins, they tell their friend. Now you have 2 people talking about you. They tell their friends. Now you have 4 people, 8 people. And these are the best customers, right? It's not like when you see my ads, like if you saw a Facebook ad of me, you're like, who the fuck is this? This guy running around saying you can make money with sports cards. As opposed to if your friend told you, oh, you should join Eric Michael's program. I've made $5,000 from it. Much different, right? So and this is just a general rule of thumb for business in general, even when flipping sports cards, be that guy that's fair. You're going to get much more business long-term because you're that guy. You're the guy that's fair, and you're in a ocean with people that aren't. Okay? That's right. That's right, Beatswood. They always come back. That's right. Be fair. It turns out being fair is actually the best way to make money. Look at delivering the most value in people's life is the best way to make money. Look at the biggest business in the world, or one of them, Amazon, right? They deliver tons of value. They get your package there the same day or the next day. That's why they're worth so much money. So I have a lot to talk about. I'm going off today. My God, this is crazy. Copy, where are we at time-wise? All right. Some other stuff I wanted to talk about is, listen, I got to give some respect to Arch Manning. I fucking respect the shit out of this kid and his family. This kid could have went to any other program in the country. Literally, Arch Manning would start in any other program except for Texas, where he is, and like Colorado, maybe like Georgia. That's it. And he went to Texas, okay, knowing he needed to develop, and that's the best route to go, because I'm sure Peyton advised him. And he didn't transfer. You don't hear a fuss from him. Now he's starting because Quinn Ewers is hurt, but Quinn Ewers will come back and he'll start. You don't hear a fuss. Why? Because he's playing the long-term game. He knows, one, Steve Sarkisian, the Texas coach, is an amazing coach of quarterbacks, and he is a guy who understands NFL schemes, and he runs an NFL offense. So he understands that's the best place to be, and he's getting taught by the best, and he's sitting behind some of the best. Like Quinn Ewers is a great quarterback. He's putting himself in the right environment, as opposed to so many people, all you fucking people that just watch TikTok and need that instant gratification, wouldn't be able to do something like that. And I know 99% of you wouldn't be able to do that. I don't even know if I'd be able to do that. And people say that, oh, he doesn't need NIL money because he's a Manning. What do you think? You think Peyton Manning is just like giving Cooper Manning, who is the father of Archie Manning, money? No. He could go somewhere, start, and get paid millions of dollars from NIL money. But he's not doing that because he's playing the long-term game. He knows what's in his best interest is being a star in the NFL, and the best way to get there is by developing. So when he starts his junior, look how good he already looks. I don't know if you guys remember last year, his first spring game, he was not good. He was a five-star guy, five-star quarterback, but the talent he played against in high school was not good. It was actually pretty bad. We'll go watch his high school highlights. Most of the kids he was playing with just did not look like athletes. But he went to Texas knowing he needed work, and he didn't rush it, right? He put himself in the right environment. He invested in the right coaching. He didn't invest money, but he invested time, which is money. And because of it, you see how good he is now. He could go to the NFL right now. I mean, he can't because he needs to play another year. But next year when he starts, man, it's going to be lights out. He has 2 years of development under the same system with Steve Sarkisian, and he was sitting behind one of the best quarterbacks in the country. You got to respect the hell out of the kid. You have to. Also, along the lines of that, yesterday, the Atlanta Falcons not beat up, but it was actually a great game. But Kirk Cousins went fucking crazy, 500 yards. And I know some of you guys watching this right now, you were one of those people that was making fun of the Falcons for drafting Michael Penix and having Kirk Cousins. Nobody has said a word anymore. You don't hear a peep. And I was a big fan of that transaction. If Michael Penix needs to sit behind Kirk Cousins for 2 years, who gives a shit? Like, they're setting themselves up for success. They have 2 solid quarterbacks, and Jaden Daniels looks really good. But Michael Penix, it's hard to imagine that he's not going to be really good when he comes in and plays. Look at all the weapons they have. They have a great offensive line, great running back with Bijan Robinson. Defense kind of sucks, but that'll get better, I'm sure. They're setting themselves up for success by taking the long-term approach. That's what people just don't realize. Like, Patrick Mahomes sat behind Alex Smith for a year. Like, you don't have to make money right away. You don't need that instant gratification. By taking that delayed approach, you set yourself up for much more long-term success. Just like the repacking product I just talked about. Just like being the fair guy when it comes to flipping cards, anything. So I think it's funny that no one says anything anymore. You don't hear a peep. You don't hear a peep about anything. Now on to some Q&A. So I got a few questions from you guys. Yeah, I got a few questions. So, all right. This is this is going to be a mouthful. Michael says, "What about starting a grading company?" Okay. Oh man. All right. This is a bad idea. You're putting yourself. All right, so look, there's been so many different people that have tried to start grading companies. I'm sure all those companies are losing a lot of money. PSA is like the grading company. Then you have others like SGC and Beckett that have been doing it forever as well. You need to take and stay with it for 10 plus years to gain traction. It's just kind of going back to the first thing I was talking about in the podcast with putting the wind at your back. You're not putting the wind at your back. You're putting yourself on an uphill battle because you're putting yourself in a market with people like me who only talk about PSA and really trust PSA because a PSA 10 sells for way more than any other grade, right? And starting a grading company, I couldn't think of a worse idea. That's like along the lines of me starting a newspaper. I think I might rather start a newspaper. It's close. It's a bad idea. You're just putting yourself in a world where there's companies that have been doing it for so long. They have billions of dollars. Like, I'm sure you're asking this because your goal is to make money. Like, you're much better. You should read the book if you're, like, actually interested in doing this, which you shouldn't. Like, I'm telling you, just don't do it. Like, bad idea. Don't do it. You're not going to succeed. But there's a great book called Blue Ocean Strategy. Some of you guys may have heard of it. It's a very famous business book. And what they talk about in the business book, or in the book, is putting yourself in the right opportunity vehicle with the wind at your back. So here's a good example. I forget the name of this company, but basically the whole premise of the book is taking 2 opportunities that are in different fields and combining them to put yourself in a blue ocean. So let me give you an example. So one of the examples they use a lot in the book is Cirque du Soleil. You know the famous circus in Las Vegas? Is it still famous? I think they still do it, but it was really, really famous in the 50s and the 60s with those 2 famous guys that would do the stuff with the tigers. You guys know what I'm talking about, right? I got to look it up now. Now I'm pissed off. I forgot their names. Cirque du Uh, what was their name? The guys from Cirque du Soleil. Mm, I forget. Nah. Those, but you guys know who I'm talking about. Those two guys that would mess around with the Tigers. But anyways, so Cirque du Soleil, right? They took an industry that was dying, like a circus. Circuses were huge in the 1800s, but they combined it with like super action fun. So they took two things that were not like yet together, put them together. Boom, massive business, still around today. Another good example, I forget the name of this. I forget the name of this business too, but it was an Australian wine company. So years ago, wine was only for the elite, right? And these elite people, right? Wine had all these like fancy words associated with it, and no one understood anything, and it was very expensive wine. But this Australian wine company said, okay, let's make wine simple and fun. So their wine bottles, you guys probably know who I'm talking about. It's a very famous company. I gotta look it up. I don't like to not know what I'm talking about. Australian wine company. What's the name of it? Total Wine, was that the name of it? I forget. It's in the book. Yeah, I forget. But anyways, this wine company took they took something like wine that people like, but they took something from that was not in the wine industry and they made it very simple. So their wine bottles would just be like simple. It'd be like yellow or red or blue, and it would, like it's just a flavor like cherry, blue raspberry. Very simple. Anyone like myself, who I don't know anything about wine, could do it. And it made wine like a fun like party drink because it was cheap. It was just anyone could understand it. But these wine bottles years ago, no one could understand anything. There was all these little words on it. But they took two things, put them together, and boom, there you go. Massive industry. It's $1 billion company now. The point I'm trying to make is these companies put themselves in a blue ocean like that. Like Cirque du Soleil, they put themselves in a blue ocean. There was no one else that had an action-packed, fun circus. Like that was fast-paced like that. No one. Repacking cards, nobody will be as fair as my student who's about to launch. He's putting himself in a blue ocean. So he's taking an existing industry and applying something new to it. Grading cards, unless you have a fucking great idea and you have millions of dollars, which I doubt you do, it's not a great idea. Unless like you could come up with something crazy and apply something new that would just take off. There's been people that have tried like robot grading companies and stuff, but no one likes that. So yeah, that's my thoughts on it. By the way, Instagram Live, I see your and Facebook, I see your questions. Give me a second. So Bob from PA, Bob, I like your questions. You ask good questions. I remember you from last week. What steps would you need to take to find raw vintage Hall of Fame baseball cards from 52 to 69 on eBay, get them graded by PSA, then to sell newly graded cards for at least double what you paid? Do any of your programs work with students who solely flip vintage cards? All right. So question number one, where you're asking about 1952 through 1969 raw, bad. No. Don't do it. It's not I like to teach things that are systematic and predictable. Like buying new cards, it's very easy to find these cards. There's a lot of them on eBay, just like this. You could buy them, get them graded. Finding raw cards from 52, 58 in the 50s and 60s, good luck. A lot of them are faked. A lot of them are in shit condition. Even sometimes when they're real, PSA will think they're fake. It's not a good idea. You're not going to be able to systematically flip them. And then you asked another question, in order to get them graded by PSA. I don't think that's another question, but yeah, I would just stay away from it. It's a once in a blue moon thing. If you find some, great, do it, get it graded, and make money. And then you said, I think this is a question, to sell newly graded cards for at least double what you paid. So, well, that's done. I mean, that's basically what I teach. So what you want to be doing with that is, right, so newer, I'll just be very general, because this is why I have like 5 hours or probably 10 hours of video modules that go over this. But like the way it essentially works, right? And I'm assuming you know how to evaluate the condition of a card, which is like the biggest thing, right? The corners, the edges, the centering, the surface, the autograph, all that stuff is so, right? You have these new cards that come out in 2024, and newer cards are usually going to grade better because they're newer, right? A card from 2018 is going to be harder to grade than a card from 24, right? Common sense. And what you could do is these cards come out, so don't buy them when they first release. Wait about a month because they'll come down in value, and buy them and try to buy cards in the off season. So like right now, baseball, there's a bunch of guys in their baseball off season right now. Buy it, get it graded, and flip it and sell it. That's essentially new cards in a nutshell. You want to be buying these things in the off season, so when you get them graded by PSA and they're sitting at the grading company for a month, 2 months, right? Going back to the whole like theme of this podcast with the wind at your back, put the wind at your back, right? And the wind at your back is like not buying football because a lot of football guys are going down in value as they play bad. Most guys don't live up to expectations. So it's a whole, I could spend hours talking about it, but that's like it in a nutshell. And do any of your programs work with students who solely flip vintage cards? So yes, that's our highest level program. So, the way it works, so like this is like the sequence of like flipping cards. So you buy raw, get it graded. You could do this and get this up to $3, $4, $5 a month in profit. Then once you get that going and you're making like $5 a month, it's like, okay, like what do you do next? Like, you want to scale past $5 a month. That's when you start to buy cards already graded. And you could do this with vintage and you could do this with modern. I like to do it with modern more, but you could do it with vintage. And so the way our highest level program works, so it's 6 months long. Then at the end of the 6 months, if you qualify, that during the first 6 months, we want to see you make at least like 25, 30 grand to qualify. We have something called the VIP program. In that VIP program, we teach buying cards already graded, vintage and modern, because that's like the natural progression. These people are making $4 or $5 a month. It's like, okay, what's next? What do you do with the extra money? Because you can only find so many raw cards in good condition. And that is where you get into buying vintage cards already graded. Essentially, it's a whole thing, but the way vintage works, right? Like I have a card like Randy Moss back there. Like when I say vintage, I'm talking like 90s, 80s, 70s. Like doing it from the 50s and 60s is a whole more advanced thing. But 70s, 80s, and 90s, the way it goes with that Randy Moss cards, right? It goes up like this, but it goes up like this, right? It goes up and down, up and down, up and down. And you could buy it. You could use market movers to buy it when it's at its down. So like that Randy Moss card, it sold for, when I looked last, like 117. And it was like the lowest sale in the past year. That same card sold for 250 in the past year. I knew it was at its low point. I saw it at a card show. I bought it for like $110. It's a small example, but and I'll be able to flip it for like 150, 160, 170. It's only $50, but you're buying these cards every single day, and you have this rolling inventory of you're buying these vintage cards, these PSA 10s from the 70s, 80s, and 90s at their low point, and they'll come back up. It might be next week, next month, maybe 6 months, but they will. And that's the systematic way to make money with a vintage. Once you get it, you could do it with cards from the 50s, 40s, and 60s, but the problem with those is not every card is made equal. So you could have a PSA 5 that sells for $5,000 and the same PSA 5 of the same card sell for $3,500, just because of how it looks, the coloring and the centering, as opposed to like PSA 10s from the 80s and 90s. Well, they're PSA 10s. They all look the same. So it takes that element out of it. And I just like keeping it simple. So hopefully that answers your question, Bob. But good question. I like your questions. Keep asking them. Levi says, how exactly do you get cards graded through PSA? You'll want to go to the PSA website and it'll walk you step by step. So basically what you'll do is you'll make an account and it walks you step by step. Like you put the cards in, whatever card you have. It has you print the shipping label, shows you the address to ship it to. And then on your PSA website or on your account, it'll show you where cards are at. Are they being processed? Are they graded? Then once they get graded, it'll tell you the grade. The PSA website could explain it better than me. Jack says, why are my graded cards not selling? I use SGC. Is this the reason? No, it's not the reason. So there's only 2 reasons your cards are not selling, Jack. You got shit no one wants, or you're overpriced. It's probably both. So that's the biggest problem. Like once you understand what to buy, selling becomes quite easier. So, for example, right now, if you are trying to sell Anthony Richardson and you're trying to sell it for prices that were a month ago, nobody's going to buy it. No one really wants him right now because he stinks and it's overpriced. So you need to learn the right stuff to buy, Jack. So the right types of products to buy, like baseball, Bowman Chrome, Top Series, like basketball, Prism, and Select is decent, Optic. And not only doing that, but buying it at the right time, right? So basketball, when do you buy basketball? Okay, you want to try to buy basketball in like May, June, July, sell it in like August, September, maybe October when the season starts to heat up. So that's essentially how it works. So you're either overpriced or you got the wrong stuff, but it's probably both. Kevin says, your buying and selling calendar seems like it would lose money when you say grading takes 4 to 6 weeks at best. If you're buying the 2 months before football, by the time you get the cards and send it to PSA, it doesn't seem like they will be back to sell before football season starts. Should you really start buying earlier? So, yeah, you should start buying earlier. So if it takes 2 months to get a card graded, I would stop buying football 2.5 months before the season starts. So, for example, right, football starts early September. I stop buying football early July because I know that I don't want any cards to come back to me after the season, right? Look what happens once the season starts. Will Levis, Bryce Young, all just shoot down in value. Anthony Richardson. So football, right, you want to be buying. I like to start buying early, like super early. Like I'll even do it in the season sometimes, like January when like no one wants a certain guy and he's just down a lot in value. Like Will Levis, like Titans suck, but I knew he would have some hype. He went up a decent amount. And I bought his cards like January, February. Jordan Love, you could have bought in January, made a killing by selling in like May and June. But yeah, like football, you could buy like January, February, March, April, May. I stopped buying in May, to be honest. I'll stop buying. It depends. If like higher end, I'll stop buying in May. I'll buy stuff to get graded up until July. And so then I start to buy basketball in like June, July, maybe a little bit of August. And I start to buy baseball towards the end of the season of baseball, like August, September, October, November, little December. That's the buying calendar. So you just have to make sure, like, once again, this is my opinion and my experience, but you have no cards of a certain season once it starts. That's it. Jonathan says, hello, Eric. If I join your group, is the coaching part included in the $47 a month? Yes, it is. We have 2 coaching calls a week. Or 1 a week, actually. Walter says, how do you decide which players to buy? What sport are you talking about? So with baseball, for example, the players I like to buy the most, 1, guys who are down a lot, and 2, I love to buy prospects that I think have a high chance of getting called up in like the following spring training because those guys will drive a lot of hype. My buddy Dylan, who was the one that got me into sports cards, he had a great quote last week. He said to me, no one cares once they start playing. So like once someone makes the major leagues and they realize they're not the next Babe Ruth, the market stops caring. So I love to buy prospects that haven't played yet in the major leagues. Love to buy them in September, October, even November. And guys who are 20, 21, 22, and AA, AAA had a good year because I know they have a high chance of getting called up. And when people figure that out in January and February, March, their value will go up just based off that excitement, right? That's exciting if a player is going to play for the first time. That's how I decided by baseball. I use the MLB top 100 list a lot, or just Google. And football for me, well, I use market movers to see when it goes down, and then I just kind of use my intuition. Who do I think is going to be hyped? Who do I think is going to have some nice offseason acquisitions that'll drive up their value? Basketball, same thing as football. Like it's kind of like intuition. Who could I see going up a lot? Who went down a lot in the past few months for no reason? Like a good example going back to baseball is like Ellie De La Cruz. So good season, really good player. His value just shot down because the Reds stink. Same thing with like Paul Skeens with the Pirates. His value shot down because they just stink. And I love that when a player keeps playing well, but his value will go down just because the excitement dies. Because I know that excitement will come back in January, February. Ellie De La Cruz, I'm not going to make like a ton of money on. Like I think it'll go up 20, 30%, but it's solid money. It's not that risky as opposed to buying one of these 21-year-old prospects. You don't know what the hell will happen with them, right? They're 21, which is a little bit more risky. So that's how I decide which players to buy. Hopefully that makes sense. That's all I got for you guys. I think this was the longest podcast I ever did. Hopefully you enjoyed it. If you have any questions for me, you can always feel free to leave a comment. And I try to look at my comments before the podcast and answer any questions you have, or get on the email list by clicking any of the links you see and put in your email. And I send out an email once a week that lets you guys ask questions. It goes to a form and you guys can ask questions. Either or, if you're watching this on YouTube, hopefully you enjoyed it. I try to provide as much value as humanly possible. Like, comment, subscribe. Let's go Mets. For the next podcast, I think I'll be doing it from Citi Field. I'll see you in the next one.